transplantation, right? Bone marrow transplantation. This is permitted. It is non-heritable, but even it is permitted. It is permitted. Yeah. Bone marrow transplantation is a kind of gene therapy. This gene therapy is it's a stem cell therapy. So how exactly we are doing this gene therapy? I am going to justify when I am going to take this stem cell separately after doing this gene therapy, right? So as of now, you must be knowing about somatic gene therapy. Means gene therapy in non-sexual cell is permitted, and here the best example of the somatic gene therapy is bone marrow transplantation, and it is non-heritable. Means it is restricted to that particular generation. Means it is not being forwarded to the next generation. Where means every generation will need to find out the similar way of doing. But the germinal gene therapy means what? This gene therapy takes place in germinal cell like sperm, egg, or embryo, and it is permanent and heritable. Permanent and heritable, but it is not permitted. It is not permitted due to it is not permitted due to it is not permitted due to all well, signal is okay. From my side, signal is okay. You please confirm whether you are getting my reception or not. If no, internet speed is good. Okay, right. So I was here. I was here. I was here. Listen, what I was talking about, this gene therapy, there are two different approaches in the gene therapy. One is the somatic gene therapy that takes place in the non-sexual cell. Yes, it is permitted. It is permitted. Like example is the bone marrow transplantation, which is non-heritable in nature, and it is permitted. Means the only somatic gene therapy is permitted. The germinal gene therapy is what? That is not permitted. And here the gene therapy in the sperm, egg and embryo, and it is permanent and heritable in nature, but it is not permitted. Why it is not permitted? Because simple concept is, if we are going to fix genetic defect in the sperm and genetic defect in the egg or genetic defect in the embryo, we don't have any mechanism to find out the immediate effect of what we have done unless it is going to be effective in developing child. And see, if we modified gene sequences with utmost with utmost effort, fixing with all effort, and suppose if by any means we have maintained all parameters, but by any means, if there is a genetic, if we are going to introduce a new genetic fault in the process of the correction of the genetic defect, so we are not able to observe. We are not able to observe unless it is going to be visualized in developing child. Clear? And if the developing child is going to be suffer from any genetic fault which is introduced unknowingly in the process of the gene correction, so that will create a new problem in gene pool system. Clear? So that is the reason behind germ-line gene therapy or the germinal gene therapy is not permitted. And this germ-line gene therapy was, you heard about the Chinese doctor, Dr. He Jiankui. He did this. This is completely banned across the world. But Chinese doctor He Jiankui, he did this germline gene therapy for the fixing of the HIV virus transmission, and with the help of CRISPR-Cas9, and even twin boys born in 2020. And that result was positive, but it was a violation of the convention, and that was the logic behind that. Doctor is still behind the bar, and he compromised with his position, and even he was also penalized by financial penalty. Clear? So the germ-line gene therapy is not permitted, but the He Jiankui performed this germ-line gene therapy with the help of CRISPR-Cas9, and the designer babies, he just made designer baby. So that part is not required. But I just mentioned here so that you feel connected. What is the connection between the designer baby He Jiankui and the CRISPR-Cas9? That was the controversial event that took place in the China. In 2020, and finally, just for this controversial event, that doctor got penalty in the term of financial penalty as well as the legal penalty. Means still he is behind the bar. Okay. So this is all about the gene therapy. That is the evolutionary. That is the application aspect of the human genomics. If anything you are willing to ask, please let me know. Otherwise, allow me to continue. Why don't you upload recorded video so that the time will not be wasted? Solve your my part is the delivery only. I am a teacher and I am from tomorrow onwards I am going to upload recorded lecture, but in that case you are not going to. Germline gene therapy is not permitted. It's a very simple like that. See, Abhyas, I have repeated. I am repeating. The life is created by the mixing of the sperm and the egg. Fine. And suppose if we are just trying to find out the genetic fault in the sperm. Fine. And I'm trying to find out the genetic fault in the sperm. And in the process of the fixing of the genetic fault in the sperm, suppose innocently, unknowingly, if I am going to create a new genetic fault in the sperm, so we don't have any specific mechanism to observe, to see what we have done. Unless this sperm will fertilize with the egg, and then the zygote will result, and the zygote will start developing, and then baby will develop, and then baby will born, and then this fault means what we have done is going to be appear in the developing baby. So if something is going to be done in a very different manner, if something is going to be done in a negative manner, so we are not supposed to kill the baby. But even if we are going to allow, if we are going to allow the baby for the development, if you are going to allow the baby to be developed, so that baby is going to have a new kind of a genetic fault, and this new kind of the genetic fault is going to create a new problem in the gene pool system. Yeah, like example, see here, you have seen so many examples of genetic diseases, like the sickle cell anemia, hemophilia, color blindness. These are what? It's a defect. These are the genetic defects. And these genetic defects are the natural defects. These genetic defects are the natural defects, means in the process of evolution. We went through something that even we are not able to recognize what we have done, means how it was, how we went through genetic fault, and now this genetic fault is permanent in the gene pool system. Fine. So that was the nature in the process of evolution. Clear? And in the process of the gene therapy, we are going to create. If we are going to create the genetic fault, so that genetic fault will be the man-made fault. So just because of the apprehension about the new genetic fault, we banned germline gene therapy. It is not permitted across the board for any kind of the doctor across the world in any country. Namrata, just hold your question. I am just coming to the bone marrow transplantation, right? That we are going to take in the stem cell therapy. Okay. Abhyas, I hope you understand. I understand, yeah. Suraj, I have shared my number to everyone. Why are you frustrating? You don't be frustrated. See, you are not supposed to be frustrated. You are not supposed to. I have shared my number in a very first lecture. You feel any problem, just text your message, and probably if I am not going to receive, just text your message and I will reply. Probably if I am not going to reply in one shot, I will call back you. So we are here to assist you. So don't feel frustrated. We are here to deliver your lecture with commitment, and we are just trying to do it. Fine. And probably it's a network. You see, it's a technical problem. So that everyone can feel like that. I am also feeling frustrated because see, this is going to disturb my rhythm. It is also going to disturb my rhythm. So in that case, if I am going to miss some points, so that I also feel frustrated, na? So I understand your problem. Your problem is genuine. So I am not saying like that you are doing something which is unnecessary. You are just raising a question which is genuine. But here, the entire Delhi is in the lockdown situation. We all are in the lockdown situation, and we are just trying to manage. I simply imply, this is my studio, right? This is my studio. I made this studio. It's a temporary setup that I just made like a studio. Fine. Here, I have simply installed one more router for the class. one more connection and the router for the class that I have installed today for this class. So we are just trying to find out everything for your betterment, but ultimately we are not so technical. No? Even if there is a technical problem from the back side, if Airtel is not able to provide the technical assistance to that extent, so that we are helpless in that way. The people, they are not able to come, they are not able to fulfill the commitment just because of the lockdown. So it's not a normal situation, it's a pandemic, please. Okay? Smita, hold. Smita, hold. Namrata, hold. Hold. Somatic gene therapy is not the part of the baby, right? If I am suffering from, one example that we are going to apply. And anyone whosoever is feeling problem is not able to understand this class somewhere because of a technical fault, you have authority to call me. If I am not going to pick your call, you have authority to text or message. Just message and I will call back. That is my commitment to everyone. Fine? Okay. And don't bother. Don't be frustrated. Don't be frustrated. Okay, fine. So, even after the class, if you are not able to understand, just give me a call and I will make you understand. I am going to continue this entire class on the telephone through the WhatsApp. This is my commitment to everyone. Fine. Okay. So, the point is that, Smita, see, the germline gene therapy, somatic gene therapy, means suppose, somatic gene therapy means you can modify my gene sequences anywhere except my gametic cells, right? Like example, if I am suffering from thalassemia, thalassemia means what? My body is not responding, my bone marrow is not responding in the term of blood cells, means I am not able to get that much, means my body, usually what happens, the normal blood composition is replaced by the new blood within the 3 months, okay, right? But see what happened, suppose I am thalassemia. Thalassemia means what? My bone marrow is inactive. My bone marrow is inactive and the bone marrow is not able to develop form that amount of the blood is required to facilitate my all dynamics. Right? So in that case, I have 2 options. The first option is what? Whether I should go for the blood transfusion. So that blood transfusion is periodical, probably once in a 3 month or maybe once in a, means every year I am going to be transfused with the right blood transfusion at least twice or thrice in a year, because bone marrow is not responding. That is the one solution that we are supposed to do. The second solution is what? The second solution is, right, we should go for the permanent medication. And the permanent medication is what here? I will try to transfer the new gene along with the bone marrow from the donor. So my bone marrow gene is inactive, means my non-sexual gene is inactive, and I am just trying to replace this non-active gene, this inactive gene, right? This inactive gene via a donor gene, and here the gene is inserted in the body, in the bone marrow along with the bone marrow cell, means from the donor's bone, means we are supposed to receive the bone marrow from the donor and then we need to insert it in the bone marrow of the recipient. Fine. So we have simply replaced, or we have simply substituted the entire new gene pool along with the cell, and that is what? It's a bone marrow transplantation. So when we inserted bone marrow in the body of recipient who does not have effective bone marrow, so the transfused bone marrow is going to respond, and when the transfused bone marrow is going to respond, So that man is going to miss the transfused bone marrow is going to form blood in that recipient automatically, and that man is not followed by the transfusion. So this is what it's a somatic gene therapy. So somatic gene therapy is always done in the somatic cell, and that could be any kind of the somatic cell. Here we have simply talked about the best example of the somatic cell as a bone marrow transplantation, and this entire process is what? It's a stem cell therapy that we are going to elaborate. Yes? Nayana, I have two questions. The first is the sex selection possible through the gene therapy. Why we are supposed to do the sex selection through the gene therapy? Rather, we also have other mechanism. I told you the sex selection could already this gene therapy is the technical term. Rather than if you want to go for the sex selection, the best thing is what we should go through the sex selection through the IVF technique. And in the IVF technique, we should ensure the mixing of this zygote with either X, mixing of the egg with either X type of sperm or the Y type of sperm. That is the simple way. Gene therapy is the technical way, right? But in the process of IVF, if we are going to ensure the mixing of the egg with either X type of sperm or the Y type of sperm, that is the best way to select sex. But this is completely prohibited in India, that already we have discussed as per the PCPNDT Act. It is also banned because of the likelihood of its being used for the eugenics. Yeah, we can also say like this. But the intention is not. This is something you are talking about. It's an effect. But the main concern is what? Why the germline gene therapy is banned? Just because of the apprehension about the appearance of the new genetic fault, and if it is going to be done, that will disturb the entire biodiversity. Is the major logic behind why it is not being permitted. And the rest of the discussion on the rest of the apprehension, what you are talking about, it's a after effect, or it's a after effect. Means the secondary effect could be a number of things. Yes, right? Can we go ahead? Can we go ahead? Can we go ahead? If yes, please let me know. We are going to... Yeah, signal is proper. If yes, please let me know. No. Somatic means, Diksha, in the very first few lectures I told you there are two terms. One is the somatic and the second is the germinal. Somatic means non-sexual and the germinal means sexual. Any cell you take from your body that is not responsible for the next generation or the new generation is the somatic cell. Your hair cell is somatic cell. Your skin cell is somatic cell. Right? Your entire body part cells are somatic cell. The entire body part cells are the somatic cell. But your egg is sexual cell. Your sperm is sexual cell. So in human body, except the egg and the sperm, the rest of the cells are right, somatic or non-sexual cells, and these cells are not involved in the process of the reproduction and in the continuation of the next generation. So any cell is not responsible for the continuation of the next generation is considered as the non-sexual cell or the somatic cell. Sweetie, the gene replacement is the faulty gene is replaced by the new gene. Yes, while the While the editing is what? That is the correction in the faulty gene. Means we are not going to replace faulty gene, rather we are simply correcting it. Now, in the same condition, we have discussed about the stem cell. Sorry, we have discussed about the stem cell is the better way of the cloning. So it's a better way of the gene therapy in the case of the human. So just coming to this stem cell, but you know this stem cell is a border. This stem cell therapy is what? This stem cell therapy is the part of the term like the cloning. There's a term like clone. There's a term like there's a heading like clone. And in the cloning, we have three different types of the cloning. One is therapeutic cloning. This therapeutic cloning is what? It's a gene replacement technique. Yes, and the same is called as what? It's a stem cell therapy. This is the first cloning. Yes, the second cloning that you heard about, gene or DNA cloning, and the third cloning you heard about reproductive or organism cloning, and here you must be knowing about the dolly. So this gene therapy which is done in human through the stem cell therapy is a type of cloning. Type of cloning. And that means type of cloning. So the first of all, cloning means what? Cloning stands for photocopy. Means genetically identical. Genetically identical photostat copy. You have one page, get it Xerox. That is what? It's a photostat copy, and that photostat copy is what? It's a clone. Means the photostat copy is identical to the parent source, that is genetically identical. And clone has only one source of gene, and the one source of gene that make a sense of monoparental. Mono means one source, and parental means monoparental means one source of gene. So the clone is genetically identical photocopy or monoparental in nature. Right? Okay. Fine. So I have shared this. I have shared the entire discussion in the form of PPTs, and you see, you have this PPT. See here, clone is genetically identical individuals of an organism. Yes, genetically identical individual means, and if you want to make my clone, if you want to make my clone, so the my clone would be exactly similar to me. If you want to make a clone of a gene which is used in the gene therapy, so we need to replicate it. It's a gene cloning. Means if you just try to find it, we just try to make a copy of this pen, it means we are just trying to copy. Means what? It's a cloning. Copy means cloning. So I just try to make a copy of this pen. That means I'm just trying to clone it. maybe 100,000, 10,000 as per the requirement. As per the requirement, that may simply make a sense of the clone. Right? That simply make a sense of the clone. So this clone is genetically identical, and there are three types of the clone. One is the recombinant gene cloning, the second is the reproductive cloning, and the third is the therapeutic cloning, what we have mentioned here. Therapeutic cloning, gene or DNA cloning, and the reproductive cloning that we are going to elaborate in step by step. Right? Fine. So let me take here the first example. Yeah, Manish Ravidas. Can we say like that twins are natural? Twins means especially identical twins. When we talk about the twins, that is the identical twins. Twins are cloned to each other. Identical twins are cloned to each other. They are not cloned to the parent. They are not cloned to the parent. They are not resembling with the parent, but they are resembling to each other. So the clones are identical to each other. Fine, okay. So let me elaborate here one by one. Like the first is reproductive or DNA cloning, reproductive cloning, and therapeutic cloning. Fine. So the first is recombinant cloning. Yes, this is what? It's a DNA. And we need to copy this DNA. Copy this DNA. Yes, this is clone DNA or gene. Fine. And the purpose is what? Purpose is to maintain gene pool. To maintain gene pool. Means to increase, means the ultimate purpose of the copying of the gene or DNA is what? We need to maintain the gene pool so that this could be used in the gene therapy, or so that it could be used for the different purpose, right? So this copying is done through the PCR. It's a polymerase chain reaction. It's a polymerase chain reaction. Fine. So one gene or DNA is cloned into 100,000, 10,000 as per the requirement. That is what? It's a cloning of gene or DNA. It's a cloning of gene or DNA, what we have mentioned here. Right? Can we go ahead? Second is this is therapeutic cloning. This therapeutic cloning is cloning of cell. Cloning of cell. And this cell is what? It's a stem cell. And the intention is what? It's a medication. Intention is medication. Cloning of a stem cell and the intention is medication. Intention is medication. Right? So in human, let me elaborate this stem cell, that is therapeutic cloning, that is cell based gene replacement therapy. Like this. Stem cell. And what? That is unique cells. Undifferentiated, keeps multiplying and differentiating in organs. This is stem cell. Smita, recombinant clone